Welcome to Vintage SF. Today, a book tour. Spacewrecks, Ghostships, and Derelicts of Space by Stewart Cowley. This is the third in the Terran Trade Authority handbooks. In 1978, Spacecraft, 2000 to 2100 AD, was published. In 1979, Great Space Battles, followed up later in that year by Spacewreck, Ghostships, and Derelicts of Space. And the Terran Trade Authority handbooks finished off with Starliners, Commercial Space Travel in 2200 AD. Let's first look at the information on the inside flaps of the dust jacket. Spacewreck, Ghostships, and Derelicts of Space. Space, like the sea, has claimed countless lives and thousands of ships, victims of war, misadventure, accident, or 1,000 other causes. Described and illustrated here are some of the many empty and ruined hulks that are drifting even today in the unending darkness or lying shattered and forgotten on distant, nameless worlds. Their stories are sometimes heroic, sometimes sad, sometimes frightening in their implications, and often tantalizingly incomplete, but all are intriguing. Many of these ghost ships and derelicts bear witness of disasters that have overtaken our fellow men, but we are not the only space-traveling species, and some wrecks mark the passing of other species from unknown regions of the galaxy. In this, his third book for the Terran Trade Authority, Terran Defense Commander Stewart Cowley explores a subject that has always intrigued him. During his service with the 13th Squadron of the Mars Defense Group and his later travels as an information officer for the TTA, he has had the opportunity to examine many of the derelicts of which he has written here. Following the tragic destruction of his widely praised collection of edible model spacecraft, he has succeeded in reproducing a duplicate exhibition in record time by using inedible substitute materials, thus earning a considerable reputation as a plaster pasta master. This is a Terran Trade Authority handbook. It contains dramatic full-color foldouts. We'll take a look at that. This particular one is published by Hamlin. There's also an American publication under Exeter, E-X-E-T-E-R. This has a dust jacket. On the back, we see something about the author. And in the front, we have a description of the book itself. And you can see that the end sheets have blueprints for some of the spaceships we will see. If we take off the dust jacket, we can see that it's a laminated board, and it has exactly the same picture and information as the dust jacket. There's the half title page, and here is the full title page with the publisher. Copyright 1979. And here's the table of contents. We'll have an introduction. I'll read a portion from that introduction. Victims of Space, The War World of Ashan, Children of the Gods, Strange Visitors, Killer Planets, and The Graveyard of Beta Pavonis. Here's an introduction to the Terran Trade Authority. This is the third book of the Terran Trade Authority. From the introduction. When man challenged the elements in his attempts to conquer the oceans of Earth, his successes were qualified by tragedies. Similarly, throughout space are scattered grim reminders of his failures, the gaunt, unlovely shapes of the ships that came to grief in the unforgiving vacuum. Each one has a story to tell. Some were the victims of circumstance and natural disaster, some of human frailty and ambition, and others were the inevitable casualties of war. Corporately, they constitute a record of spaceflight and the hardships encountered on a difficult journey which has yet to end. This book describes some of the most revealing and intriguing of these lost ships and the chain of events which left them drifting eerily through the silence of space. But the vessels that carried the men of Earth were not the only craft navigating the void, and there are many wrecks floating or lying shattered on the surfaces of distant worlds to remind us that we have never been alone in the galaxy. Some of these strange ships are also examined here, although too often conjecture and supposition have to substitute for facts. Whatever their origin, the remains of all the craft described suggest that the dangers and risks are common to all those who journey among the stars, and as such forge a common bond between all those travelers who challenge the gods, be they known or otherwise. Each set of paintings is part of a story. Perhaps story is not the right word. Part of the lore of their spaceships. This one's called Victims of Space, the series Disaster. This is a shared universe where the facts of each of the disasters, if facts is the right word, is described here in the text. We have some details about the ships themselves, their crew, and the disaster that they have experienced. For each of the paintings, they're identified here on the side by their artist. This one is Tony Roberts, and this one is Colin Hay. Victims of Space, the Epsilon Queen. Some of these paintings will look familiar to you, as they were covers for novels. The names and circumstances within these descriptions do not jive with the novels that they potentially were covers for. This is made up for its own universe. Victims of Space, the wreck of the Janus Joe. Let's take a look. This is an amazing picture. You can see the wreckage of a large spaceship way in the distance behind the dead astronaut. The artist is Angus McKee. Victims of Space, Tombs of Crystal. Once again, the artist for this one is Angus McKee, and here is the book that has the same cover image, Swan Song by Brian Stableford. Obviously, the description of this disaster will not match what is in this novel. Victims of Space, Death Ships from Alcahera. The War World of Al Shane. Besides crediting the artists on the side here, there's also descriptions to each of the paintings themselves, describing the situation in this made-up universe. For example, this one says that the desolate world of Alshane 4 had once been the home of a technologically advanced species was evident from many decaying relics discovered there. The warlike nature of this vanished species was illustrated by such artifacts as this primitive missile battery. One of the features of this book are the foldouts that they talked about on the cover. Here's the first one. And because there's a foldout on one side, That means there's a fold out on the other side as well. Children of the Gods. This one is the cover image. Strange Visitors. Unidentified Spacewreck, Mars 1. And we've come to the second fold-out. Strange Visitors, the Warthog. And on the other side, this image has been used in an SF Masterworks for Arthur C. Clarke, A Fall of Moondust. Strange Visitors, Flight to Tomorrow. Galactic Sentinel. The Return of the Malmo. Another Mary Celeste. Killer Planets. Salamander City. A pan-science fiction collection of Richard McKenna stories shares the same cover image. Victims of Arachnidia. And here we have a fold-out. Of course, Arachnidia would make you think of spiders. And the other side of this fold-out, A Deadly Eden. The graveyard of Beta Pavonis. This graveyard even includes a space shuttle. Some of the extraordinary vessels trapped in the Sargasso graveyard were still operational, although the function of such items as this apparently robotic device is still obscure. Ships were not the only objects to be found here, and these odd spheres of pure ore are unique to this area of the orbiting debris. It may be that they were consignments of material prepared for shipment from some distant mining site which escaped and found their way to this stellar backwater. Spacewreck, Ghostships, and Derelicts of Space is a beautiful book. The cover art just pops off the page. The mockumentary style here is very interesting and makes for fun, fascinating reading. I hope to find more of Stewart Cowley's books. How about you? Have you read any of Stewart Cowley's books? Do you recognize some of the cover art featured in this book? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, keep reading.